Welcome to Everyday Board Games. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your host, Daniel.
And we're back with another review of this game that just threw itself off of the table called Bone-Zai 5. Now, currently, right now, this is a new game from Buddy Pal Games, and it is for ages 12 and up for one or more players. Now, if you notice what this has some extra dice and a pad of paper. Daniel, tell them how it plays.
So, if you're familiar with Yahtzee, it's a lot like that, except for you're using different side dice. You have one D6, and everything else is a D8, 12,
yeah. 8, 12, 4, and a D16.
Is a 16, okay, yeah.
Yep.
And so you're trying to score different sets of scoring, kind of like Yahtzee, but different, because this one has like prime numbers and... so you're scoring your prime numbers, all five, or multiples of fives, multiples of threes. What are the other ones? Starts with the letter T. Perfect squares.
Yeah, so there's prime numbers, so...
I was reading that, and then he took it away.
Yep, sorry. Starts with T, perfect squares, by threes, fours, and fives, so if they have a factor of either of those, a sequence of 3, 4, or 5 in a row, or 3, 4, or 5 of a kind.
And so it plays a lot like Yahtzee. You have up to 3 rolls. You keep what dice you want to keep for your scoring aspect. Now, if you're doing certain type of ones, there is, I believe, the 5s and the 5 of a kind. You have up to 5 rolls, but you have to make the decision that that's what you're going for to get those extra 2 rolls.
Right.
And so that is basically Bone-Zai 5. It's Yahtzee on steroids.
Yeah. So... Now, to clarify how we do our reviews, we take our bias out of it. We have 5 criteria: ease of play, replay value, meaningful choice, game immersion, and art and production. We're going to flip our coin, and we'll give it our overview on each of those 5 categories, and we'll tell you if it scores a point for us. We call it a Daniel, since it's Daniel and Daniel, and a game can get up to 10 Daniels for a perfect score. We're going to start with ease of play.
And starting with me, when we're talking about ease of play, it's the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanism, the likelihood to get to the table, based on the mechanism or the theme, and is it easy to learn, understand, and or teach. For me, this is the easiest Daniel for this game, because I said it at the beginning of the top of the review. It's like Yahtzee. You have 3 rolls, and you have to determine what you're going to keep during those 3 rolls.
Sure.
The likelihood to get to the table, it's a dice chucking game, like Yahtzee. Really easy to get to the table. And it is easy to learn and teach. The understanding is a little tricky because you have to be familiar with your prime numbers and your squares and stuff like that.
Right.
Luckily, the score sheet actually tells you what numbers you're looking for, so it makes it a little easier. So this will get a Daniel for me on ease of play.
As it will for me as well. Ease of play, it breaks down into simplicity and familiarity. Again, Yahtzee is one of the most well-known dice games, if not the most well-known dice game. So if you're familiar with that idea and how to play Yahtzee, adding different color or different shaped dice just does make sense. And likelihood to get it to the table, anybody who likes Yahtzee, who have played it a bunch of times, they'll probably give it a try. And is it easy to learn and understand? Yeah, just roll the dice up to 3 times, score the one you want. Again, yeah, like Yahtzee. We're going to make that comparison a lot probably during this. So this does get a Daniel from me as well for ease of play. Now, we're going to go on to replay value. And replay value talks about the length of time and scaling well, the minimum number of plays for full experience, and the expandability if it has expansions. Now, again, we tend to review most modern board games, as you can see behind us. So I don't expect this to be expandable. Like, that would be ridiculous. What are you going to do? Add more papers, add more scoring? And I don't want to hold that accountable for it. But minimum number of plays, obviously, if you've played it, your next game is not going to be functionally different. Maybe you'll roll differently.
Yeah.
But the length of time and scaling well, again, it's like Yahtzee. It can play 1+ players, right? So it's any number of players can play it. That's a huge scale. It's not super long. If you have this dice for multiple players, you could do that. That's fine. Or you could even roll it one time and let people take turns choosing who rolls it. This is all house ruling stuff to speed up the game if you want. But again, since you could play it 1 player and plays in 15 minutes, it's pretty good for that. I'm not going to give it a Daniel because it only meets for the length of time and scaling well. But minimum number of plays and lack of expandability. After you're done playing it a few times, you might bust out every once in a while, but I don't think you'll play it that often.
I'm not giving it a Daniel for replay value either.
Right.
And we've talked about this. I've had issues with this game. Yes, it scales pretty well.
Sure.
But I played this game, and it took an hour and a half at a 4-player game. So the length of time for a Yahtzee-style game was a bit ridiculous, because I could play a 4-player game of Yahtzee in 45 minutes.
Sure.
This one, because of the numbers, because of what the dice you're rolling, the type of dice you're rolling, it does not shorten that length of time. It makes it longer. And because of you got to get tees, whereas in Yahtzee, you're doing straights, 3 of a kinds, 5 of a kinds, 4 of a kinds type stuff. If you know poker, you know that aspect. Yeah. This one, prime numbers and stuff like that, makes it a little bit trickier and a little bit headier. So that is a problem. Like you said, in the minimum number of plays for the full experience, you play it once, you know how it plays. And the expandability, I don't want to knock it for that either, but this is how we do the criteria, so it is not getting replay value from me as well.
All right, the next criteria is meaningful choice. And meaningful choice is the impact on other players' strategies, the depth of strategy, tactics, or skills, and do arbitrary choices or analysis paralysis negatively affect the game. First off, there is no interaction in this. There is none. Like, you roll, you do what you do, even egging people on. That's it. Like, there's no interaction amongst it. So, with that being said, realistically, like, that doesn't get it. Arbitrary choices, I mean, you're rolling dice. It's kind of random. But, again, that doesn't mean it's bad, per se. But that doesn't mean you're going to eventually build up enough skill to gain the advantage to roll exactly what you want. You just respond to what you get, which is a tactic, and score it where you think is tactically. The problem I have with this, and this is the big thing, is I totally get why if you're doing a 5 of a kind, a sequence of 5, or if it's divisible by 5, you're allowed to go up to 5 rolls instead of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just remembering that is weird. Like, yes. That's really uncommon to remember that. I get why they do it. They want it to make it more exciting and have that moment. But that, I feel like, ruins the depth of what it is. Because knowing that you would be able to roll 2 additional times on that spot, that makes it so much less likely people will put a score there. Just knowing that they're going to have almost twice as many rolls just to try and fulfill that. Yeah. So, like, I might go by a 4 of a kind, and I'm like, oh, well, if I get 2 more rolls now, I can get a 5 of a kind. Then why would I ever do that, right? Yeah. Unless I was, like, almost certain. And then, therefore, it makes the other choices less meaningful. So, I don't know. It was weird when we played it, but I get it. Like, I almost like it and dislike it at the same time. So, I'm not going to give it meaningful choice either.
And I agree with you. I'm not giving it meaningful choice as well. Big part of it, too, is there's no player interaction, which is fine. Yahtzee doesn't have player interaction unless you're playing, like, Battle Yahtzee. Yep. But this is the criteria that we have.
Yeah.
Also, the depth of strategy, tactics, or skills, you're not going to get any better. It just all depends on your dice roll, which is random.
Right.
And the big thing, like you were talking about, when it comes to the sequences of 5s, the 5 of the kind, and getting those extra rolls, we never even touch those till the end of the game because you don't even get punished for it. You still get to score your highest grouping, the total of your highest grouping. Mm-hmm. It's not a big number because the way this one works when it comes to the scoring aspect is if you hit it, you get this many points. Plus, if you hit exactly, or like the 5 of a kind or something like that, you get a bonus 100 points or something like that. So it makes the scoring a little arbitrary in this game aspect of it too, because it's like, oh, I did a 5 of a kind or a 3 of a kind of 3s or 4s, but because I did that, I also get a bonus point in aspect of that, but basically 100 points or 50 points or something like that. It's just not a lot of fun choices in that aspect of it when it comes to it. So, because like when you do something like Yahtzee, if you don't score it, you get a 0. And so this one, you're still getting points if you don't meet it. And that is my issue with it, because it takes away that choice from you, because I'm still getting something out of it.
Right. That makes sense. All right. So our next category is game immersion.
And when we're talking about game immersion, is the game fun to lose? Is there player interaction when it's coming to like the table talk or the role playing? You're getting into your character, or those memorable moments that make you jump up and shout, Yahtzee, or make people stare at you because you're happy you did something. Our big
Right.
one we talk about is Game Head Geeks screaming in the game
Sure.
store. So it's stuff like that. Uh, Honestly, I cannot give this game immersion either. It's fine. It's a dice checking game, but I didn't have fun losing this game. I didn't have fun playing this game all that much. There's really no player interaction unless you're like, is it my turn yet? Because somebody's trying to decide how they're going to do their dice and stuff like that. In the memorable moments, there was like one memorable moment that I can remember, honestly, in this one, and as my wife hit the big one, the 5 of a kind, she rolled 3s on everything. And so she hit it, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You got the bonus points, which means you won the game. So, because you get a lot of points off of that. So, I can't give it game immersion.
All right, so game immersion, I mean, I like to tie in theme, but I don't ever hold it against an abstract game. Like, that's fine. Yahtzee, I would rate it about the same thing. Here's the big thing about this. What makes this different than playing Yahtzee? Why would you play this over something like Yahtzee?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of the polyhedral dice, right? That's a cool idea, and you have different scoring mechanisms to do that. So getting a 5 of a kind in this with a D16, that's pretty cool, right? You know, that's exciting. That's fun to do. Yet it shoots itself in the foot by giving you 2 extra rolls. Like, yes, it's statistically harder to do that. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Your smallest die is a D6. So you have a 1 in 6 roll of even getting something on, or like obviously a D6 is simple, but on a D16, you have only a 6 out of 10 or 6 out of 16 possibility to roll something that could even match with it.
Yeah.
So I get, like, statistically it's way harder to roll that, and so they're like, let's make it easier, let's just give you 5 rolls. But then again, that is less meaningful. That makes it less fun. It's like, hey, I have a 4 of a kind. Okay, well, 2 more rolls. Yep, I'm going to get my bonus. Hey, I got it. Cool. I wouldn't feel more accomplished than rolling a Yahtzee on a 6-sided die. And I know in the back of my head, yeah, I just accomplished something more hard, but I got a handicap for doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It, like, that's almost a point of frustration because of, like, that they had to band-aid that idea into it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, though, the prime numbers, I like that. The divisible by 3s, 4s, or 5s, I like that. Perfect squares, prime numbers, starts with T. I think that's fun. Like, I appreciate that. And a friend of ours in the chat just said there should be the Fibonacci sequence. Yeah, 1, 1, or 1, 2, 3, 5, you know. That'd be hilarious, actually. I might actually do that next time I play it. As an extra option, because why not, right? But again, it's not fun to lose per se, because it's just, you know, it's no different than Yahtzee. But I feel like the memorable moments got really detracted from and really pulled away from because of the need for 2 extra dice, or 2 extra dice rolls. So I cannot give that a point either. And finally, we have art and production. And art and production, simply the art, the graphic design, the pieces and components. Obviously, there's only so much we can talk about. We're going to scrutinize this a bit. First off, polyhedral dice, great dice.
Great
different
pieces
colors.
of components.
Love it. D16, not common to find. That's cool. The sheet, it says 3 rolls per turn. You have your total. You have it out. Even the ones that have 5 extra dice, you know, or 5 rolls versus that, they're highlighted. They're marked in gray. And it clarifies what all of them means. Like the prime numbers, it even lists off all the numbers. So, you know what? I'm going to give this art and production. There's really no art that you need in this, right? The production is fine. It's a score pad just like Yahtzee has. Good dice. So that's good. The graphic design wasn't confusing. The only thing that I wish they could have done that, and they obviously couldn't have, in like Yahtzee, for example, they have like the symbols for the 1 pip, 2 pips, 3 pips, 4 pips. So it relates to dice. You can't do that with this. These are all just numerals. So like, and again, I won't do that. But, and I get the idea of bones, like you're rolling bones. That's fine. But what is Bone-Zai 5? Like, I don't know what that is.
5 dice.
Sure. So is Yahtzee, but you don't see Yacht 5, right? You know? And I don't know what Zai is. That's really my only knock against the production of this. I mean, I wish that there was a way that, like, maybe it gave a bag or something. There's an empty little part in the container back here that lets it stand up on a table. That's fine, but I wish that there was some way to hold the dice and the score pad, like a container of some kind. Granted, most versions of Yahtzee don't, but like the custom ones, they absolutely do, like a dice cup. I wish I had something like that, but that's really my only gripe about the production. So I do give it a point.
When it goes into the art and production, I give it pieces of components. The dice are nice; they're fantastic. The pad is fine; it reads well.
Sure.
I cannot give it art, of course, because not and the name annoys me as well. It's like because what is a Bone-Zai? You're rolling bones. I get that part. What's the Zai? Is it supposed to be their take of a Z? And then the graphic design. In all honesty,
Maybe
I
it's
can't...
a play on word on bonsai?
I don't know. But the graphic design, I cannot give it that one either, so I'm not going to give it the point in the art and production, because it's just text. Like you were saying with Yahtzee. Yeah, they give you the pips or something like that. There is something you could do for this. It's just text. It's really heavy text. You have to... And it's small text, so you got to really... If you have bad eyesight, you struggle with trying to read it.
Yeah.
If you have poor eyesight, so... I can't give it the art and production. Daniel on this one for me personally. You did. So
that gives it a total of 3 out of 10 possible Daniels.
Yep.
Now, and just to clarify this, I didn't have a bad time playing it. It's just I personally question whether I need this over Yahtzee. Mm-hmm. But if you're a big Yahtzee fanatic, I can see this being a place in your game collection. I totally get that, and by listening to our description of it, hopefully that will let you know if that's something that works for you.
And the thing about it too is we take our bias out of this. Yes. I had a fun time with this game. I didn't mind it. The length bothered me a bit. Sure. That was my biggest complaint of this game. But based off our criteria, this is how it goes. I personally rate this game probably a 5. It's fun. It's average. It does what it needs to do.
Yeah, but so it's 3 out of 10. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.